and I've enjoyed every minute of it. And like they've always said, I'm more the math person, and you'll be meeting another math person this afternoon. So you have any questions about any or comments or concerns, we are here to help you any way we can. So let's go ahead. I'm going to discuss two big things today. One is what they call statistics. That word you do not have to memorize, but we're going to discuss what is so big about that. And the other thing is the geometry. And we're going to discuss those two big things today. So just kind of bear with me for a little bit, and while I get the PowerPoint for statistics up. Bless you, Christina. Okay, can you see this first of all?
I can see it.
Okay, great. So this is the statistics and probability. Don't worry about trying to say those two words. You can say, oh, I've seen the word now. I can tell you what it means. This branch of math is definitely important. Of course, not just in the math section of the test, but you said you've already passed the science and social studies. Well, the good thing about that is that you don't have to worry about that as much. But for the other people, statistics and probability also shows up in the science. That's why I have a little plant here. Don't ask me what kind of plant it is, but whatever. Then I also have a globe on here. Think, why do I have a globe on here? Because statistics also goes on to social studies. You probably have seen these type of questions on the social studies test. If you haven't, great. But I know some people say they have seen this show up on the social studies test and also on the science test. So the first thing about statistics is the mean. Sometimes you might hear it called the average. I'm never going to use this in life. EA will. I've got a baseball picture, and I'm not a sports person, but in sports you hear about batting averages. Well, we're going to find out how we do it. In schools, the teacher, sometimes they gave you the average of your scores. Well, we're going to find out how we do it. Here's how we do it. You have to add up all the numbers they give you, and in your calculator, hit equal after you add them all up, then divide by how many there are. So on this set of numbers here, we have 25, 28, 30, 15, 12, and 18. In your calculator, Courtney, if you don't care, if you have one beside you, add all those numbers up and tell me what you get. Don't hit equal. When we hit equal, but don't divide yet. Just go ahead and add them all up first and see what you get. Add them all up, hit equal, then tell me what you get. Courtney, have you got anything yet? Christina, you did. Tell me what you got. Did you add them all? Did you add them all up?
The average.
Okay. Well,
hold on.
Don't divide yet. At least tell me what you got.
Oh, hold on.
Add them
Hey
all up.
Siri, what is 25 plus 28 plus 30 plus 15 plus 12 plus 18?
25 plus
128.
plus 15
Thank you, Siri. It is 128. Now, divide by how many you have. There's 6 of them.
Hey Siri, what is 128 divided by 6? 21.3.
So 21.3 is the answer. Now, again, you would definitely see this not just in the math test, but also on the science and social studies. So I'm going to give you a social studies related question regarding mean, regarding averages. And I'd like you to go ahead and do this question for me, Courtney, and everybody else who'll be watching this later. Below are the ages of the first 10 US presidents. What is the mean of their ages? So go ahead and work on that for me, please.
Is it 58?
You are correct. It is 58. I get 58.1. Who cares? Still answer. Still same answer. It is 58. You add them. You add all them up and divide it by 10 because there was 10 of them, and there's your answer. 58. Very good. And to tell you the truth, these are actually their ages when they became president. And to tell you a little trivia, I'm more of a history buff also. Little trivia: the oldest president we've ever had was Joe Biden when he became president, and the youngest one to be elected was JFK. I think he was like 43. That's just a little trivia there. Anyway, so but the first 10 US presidents, what is the mean of their ages? You told me 58. Very good. Oh, any questions there about that one? No. Okay. Next one is the median. The median is the middle number. And to tell you why I've got a picture of a road, because I'm driving down the road and I see this yellow thing in the road. And no, it's not bug splat. I'm driving down the road and it's a yellow strip. The yellow strip is called the median. And the median, it's in the middle. So that's why it's called the median. It's in the middle. So with numbers, here's what we have to do to find the median. First of all, we have to list all the numbers from small to big. List them from small to big. And then we cross off to get to the middle. Think, what in the world, John? What do you mean by that, John? Well, here's how we do it. So if I can get my little pen up here. I'm going to write these numbers, my example numbers. I'm going to put them in order from small to big. So I start with 12. I've got another 12. You might be wondering, do I have to put them both down? Yeah, I do. Let's just say these were ages of kids or young adults. If you put one down and you don't put the other down, you don't want to offend anybody. So that's why you got to put them both down. So 12, 12, 13, 15, 18, 19, and 20. I'm all down. Good. So I've listed the numbers from small to big. Next thing, I cross off to get to the middle. Well, what in the world do I mean by that? Well, let me change my color here. If I cross this one off, I come on down here to the end, and I do the same thing. So I go back here, I cross this one off, go up to the middle, and go to the side, same thing. And I keep on doing it until I get to one in the middle. Courtney, that makes sense to you? Okay. So That's how you find the median. You have to list the numbers from small to big and then cross off to get to the middle. And you keep on going down. Think kind of like whittling. You keep whittling down until you get to one in the middle. However, sometimes you might have two middle numbers. You still got to put them in order from small to big. So let's go and do this example first. Put them small to big. Okay, so we got them all there. Next thing, you still got to cross them off just like we did before. So if I cross out 2, I come on down here, cross out 8. If I cross out 7, I have to cross out 4 and 7. That gets me down to 5 and 6. If I end up with 2 middle numbers, you take the average. Well, how you find the average? That goes back to your mean. You have to add 5 and 6 equals, and then divide by 2. Because we're only looking at those 2 numbers. And you should get an answer if you come along right along with me. Answer is 5.5. And that is the median. Even though 5.5 is not listed in that set of data, set of numbers, that's still the median. That's still your yellow strip in the middle of the road, if you will. That's still the median. So here's an example. Go ahead. Go ahead and work on that one and give me the answer, like the answer whenever you have it, please.
Is it 20?
You are correct. It is 20. So let's go and read the question again. So Stephen owns the local hardware store. He sells chainsaw blades. Below is the listing of the blades that he sells, listed by the model and the brand. It also shows the length of the blade in inches. Okay, what's the question? What is the median of the length of model number HP102? So I only need to look at HP102. Don't need to look at all the rest of them. And you want the median. Median was the middle number. And you had to, first of all, you have to put them in order. Well, if you looked at them, and I believe you did, they're already in order. So the only one you need to find is the middle. And there it is. Hint, 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 right here. This is not a guarantee, but from what I've seen on the practice test, regarding the median, the set of numbers is already in order. Am I guaranteeing that? No, but I'm saying a big hint, 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 hint right here. And all you gotta do is look for the middle. Okay, next one. That was mean, median, the mode. Mode is a number that repeats the most, if there is one. Sometimes there is not one. and I'll get to that in a second. The number that repeats the most. So you gotta look at this set of numbers, and I'm looking, and I see that 57 shows up the most. That's the answer. Mode is 57. Now, if there is not a number that does not show up the most, you would write down no mode. No mode, sorry. If there is not a number that shows up the most, you put no mode. Don't put down 0 because 0 is a number, technically a number. If there is no mode, you'd put down no mode. You may not see that on the GED test, but I'm giving you that to you just in case. So here's my next example regarding mode. And when you think you have it, just say it, please. It's the number that repeats the most.
25.
Bingo. It is 25. You don't need to add anything, don't need to subtract, times, divide, or anything. You just want the number that repeats the most, and there it is, 25. Now, this is the last one. This is called range. Range is sometimes here it's called the spread or the spread of numbers. The range of a set of data means the exact same thing.
Like a
It's
mountain range.
Yeah. It's the highest number, take away or subtract, either word you're going to use. Highest number, subtract the lowest number. Now, Christina's kind of hinting at the picture. This is a picture from Scotland. You think, what's the big deal about Scotland? Scotland, it has an old song, I think it's from the 1200s. It says, you take the high road, I take the low road. I am not going to sing it. You don't want to hear me sing. But I take the high road, you take the low road.
Sing, John, sing.
That's all I know the song, Sherry. But once you have those two rows, the highest number and lowest number, you subtract them.
That's a good visual, John.
Thank you. So in this set of data, we want the highest number, which I'm thinking it's 57, and your lowest number looks like it's 8. And you take the highest number, subtract your lowest number, and you subtract them, and let's just see what we get. I get 49. Highest, you take the higher road, I take the low road. And somehow we meet in the middle. We subtract them to get in the middle. So here's your question. Here's a science-related question regarding range. Remember, it's the highest number, subtract the lowest number. Can someone tell me the answer once you have it?
Is it 11?
You are correct. It is 11. Because the highest number looks like it's 99, the higher road, and the lowest road is 88, and you subtract them, and you get 11. That's your range. That is a science-related question regarding range. So, any questions about that part of math so far?
I think those visuals were awesome, Courtney. You won't forget that. So when you think about those visuals, it'll help you remember.
Yeah, it really does help.
Okay, any other comments, suggestions? Okay, this next part of math, there's only going to be like a couple questions on there. So we don't really want to stress about it too bad, but it's not that bad a concept. Let's just see what it is. It's called probability. It's the chance or the likelihood of an event happening. It's like if Courtney, what's the probability, what's her chance of winning the lottery? What's Sherry's chance of getting struck by lightning 3 times?
That's kind of sad.
I was getting ready to say, why did I get the lightning struck and Courtney gets the lottery? I don't feel like that's very, like, you know.
Well, Courtney,
Fair
you
or
definitely won't
anything.
forget what you learned about probability after hearing that.
Yeah. Courtney doesn't
Poor
think about
Sherry.
me getting struck by lightning.
I bet
I know.
on you all. So here's
Courtney,
how
I'm
you
glad
do
you're
it.
gonna win the lottery, though. It's great.
That'd be nice.
So there is something like a formula that is not on your formula sheet, but it's not going to be hard to remember. It's the desired outcomes over all possible outcomes. What do you mean by that? We're going to see. Here's an example first. So Debbie is rolling a 6-sided die in her clue game. And what's the probability of her rolling a 3? Here's how you do it. First of all, how many 3s do we have on a die? Well, there's only one of them. A 3 only shows up one time. That's the desired outcome. The 3 only shows up one time. On the bottom, it's all possible outcomes, all possible numbers, if you will. There are 6 possible sides, so that's why we put the 6 in the bottom. A 3 only shows up one time, so you put down the 1 in the top, 6 in the bottom, because there's 6 possible outcomes. Does that make sense there, Courtney and Christina? On that
Yes.
part? Okay. Next. Use your ND, where your ND button on your calculator is like 7 buttons above your 7.
Do you have your calculator, John or Courtney?
I have my calculator. I think
do
Courtney's-
now.
Okay. So it's 3 buttons above your 7. You always want to see if this will reduce. So in your ND button, once you hit ND, 1 goes on the top, and to get the 6 below, you hit the bottom of the big circle, and you get out, hit enter, and see if it reduces. Well, in this case, it did not reduce. So your answer is 1/6. Okay. Let's try another one. So Debbie is still playing Clue with her 6-sided die. What's the probability of her rolling number? This time it's bigger than 3. Bigger than 3. So first of all, I get 3 out of 6. Well, how in the world I get 3 out of 6? Because the desired outcomes are the numbers bigger than 3. Well, there's 4, there's 5, and there's 6. So there's your 3 possibles. Out of how many altogether? There's 6 altogether. So 3 out of 6. And you type that into your calculator, 3 out of 6. Use your ND button and see what you get. And when someone gets the answer, tell me what you all get.
You got it, Courtney? She's also at work, John, so she's
Okay.
like, she may
That's
have had to answer the phone,
Uh,
but she's like watching this and kind of working at the same time.
Okay, appreciate you letting me know, Christina.
Mhm.
Thank you. I get 1/2.
That's what I got.
Because you use your ND button, you type in 3/6, and you get an answer of 1/2. You
That's
always
great,
want,
John.
you always want to try to reduce probability.
I'm
Now,
going to use this analogy from now on.
we just don't want Sherry being struck by lightning, do we?
No, we don't want that happening.
Sherry, I'm
Please
picking on you.
not, John. I got frizzy hair already. I don't need
Okay.
any more extra.
Now, I was thinking about this last night in bed, and it just hit me. In one of the earlier sciences, and I think it was Morgan yesterday when he was teaching science, maybe Christina, he was talking about the Punnett square.
I was. Mhm.
Okay, that actually probability rolls back into Punnett square, because the question could say, what is the probability of a purple plant, or what's the probability of someone having green eyes based off the offspring, or something like that? What's the probability of the offspring being heterozygous?
Mhm.
What's the probability of it being homozygous? So it all comes back. Now, here's a good example of probability.
Mhm.
When
I
someone,
recognize this one.
when someone gets a chance, let me know what the answer is.
I don't want to answer. Courtney, you there?
How's this? We won't answer this one. But Christina is right. This question is very, very similar to what you could see on a math test. Very, very similar. Hint, 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 right here. I don't want to give the answer yet. I'll let you all figure it out. Okay. Any questions or comments at that point? I've given you my name and email. If y'all need to contact me about anything, I'm more than willing to help y'all out with anything possible. Christina, Sherry, anybody else you want to comment on about this?
No, so far so good. I think it's great.
Okay.
John, you're a good
Sorry, was
teacher.
busy.
That's okay. Can you take and go back so she can see
Yes.
that question, John?
Yes.
Do you recognize this one, Courtney?
Sorry, had it muted. Yes, I remember that one.
Do you know what John, you talk to her.
Okay. I'm sorry. I was talking to a jail employee. Sorry about that. So, a house has a large window made up of 15 equal-sided pieces of glass, each the same size and shape. Of these 15, 3 of them are cracked. If a rock from a lawnmower is thrown, what is the probability that it will hit one of the cracked pieces? So, let me get my pen up here. So we know it's going to be in a fraction, because probability is always going to be in a fraction. And we want to hit a cracked window. We don't want to hit that's not cracked. We want to crack a window. We want to crack some more windows. So how many windows are cracked? 3 of them. 3 of them are already cracked. We want to hit a cracked window. The next one is how many pieces of the window all together? There's 15 all together. How do I know that? It says so at the very first sentence. 15 equal-sized pieces of glass. Now, in your calculator, you would hit your ND button. and you get an answer. And let me know when you get an answer, if you can.
Is it A?
It is A. It is A. Now, I've already said this, but I know you had to step away, but this is a big hint right here from a math test. Hint right here. Moving on. So, are there any questions or comments? I need to go back and review any of this.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Okay. So let's go. That's it on that part. Just give me one little bit because it's the next. Okay, now this is, we'll probably take about an hour on this one, if not more. This is a part of math that's pretty big on the test. It's the geometry. And for those of y'all who'll be listening to this later, I would definitely have your formula sheet, calculator, and scrap paper out for this, because you would definitely need all three of those pieces. The geometry section of the math test. This is the formula sheet in front of you, but we will only be discussing the top part. We will only be discussing area, perimeter, surface area, and volume. What do you mean by those, John? Well, we're going to discuss them in a bit. The mean and median, we've already discussed those. We just learned about those today. The bottom part, the algebra, you'll be learning about that with Miss Jackie this afternoon or on another session. But we're going to focus on area, perimeter, and surface area and volume today. With geometry, the first thing is something called perimeter. Perimeter is the distance around a shape. And you're probably back in your mind, think, I'm never going to use this in life. Yeah, you will. If I was going to put border, like wallpaper border around this room, or if I'm going to put bordering, like wood bordering around the room, I'm going to calculate the perimeter. And the perimeter is the distance around, that's the key word. I want to underline that one word right there. Around a shape. No matter what kind of shape it is, it's the distance around the shape. And you have to add up all the sides. So in this rectangle, I've only given you two sides. Don't add up just those two sides, because the perimeter is to add up all the sides. So in your calculator, you would have to add up 2.5 plus 2.5 plus 4 plus 4. You've had all the sides up, and you will get 13. So I have 3 examples in front of you to find the perimeter of those 3 rectangles, 3 shapes. And I'd like someone to go ahead and do those 3 shapes for me, those 3 perimeters. Okay. I'm going to give you all the answers just for time's sake. Number 1 is 226. The second one is 118.2. And the third one is 33.8. Now, whenever I'm teaching my students, there's like a little video, like a little YouTube video, and if you're interested, I can email it to your instructor and they can send it to you. But it's about a cat. So it's about another song. I'm not going to sing it again, but it's a cat named Perimeter. And the cat, it goes like, my friend Perimeter. He's a bit an outsider. Because Perimeter, he's on the outside. And in this little cat video, the cat perimeter, he stays on the outside. Why? Because he's a bit of an outsider. So perimeter is on the outside. Now, here's sort of how they'll address it on the test. This odd looking shape here, you still have to add up all the sides. However, only some of the sides are given. You may only see like 1 to 2 questions on this, but still, you will be tested on it. You still have to add up all the sides, but we got a problem. 2 sides are missing. So just give me 1 second, if you don't care, guys. Here's how I teach it. I know everybody's different, but I start with the line going up and down. What other lines are going up and down? Well, I see the 12 is going up and down. I see this big old red line is going up and down. And then I see a 3 is going up and down. And I'm wondering, how could I find the big red line? If I know the entire thing is 12, and I know a little bit of it is 3, maybe if I subtract 12 and 3 to get 9 for my red line, that might help me. Same thing for my big one, my big 8. 8 is going across. What other lines are going across? Well, I got a blue line and 2 feet. Same way, 8 subtract 2 is 6. 9 is going up and down. 6 is going across. Do I have all the sides at this point? Yeah, I do. So I have to add up all the sides. And I get 40 feet as this perimeter. And like I said, you may only see like 1 to 2 questions on this, but still, it's definitely tested for sure. Sorry, guys. So here's some examples with this. I'm even kind of giving you a hint. On the day of the test, you've got your white board beside you, a white sheet. If it helps, you draw that picture out on your paper. It doesn't have to be exact, but just kind of sketch it and label what you do know. And then go from there. Looks like we got people waiting in the lobby, so I'll kind of collapse.
Somehow Courtney got out, so now
Okay.
she's coming back in. So
I'm sorry, Sarah.
it's probably where she's working, so I
Okay.
just let her back in.
Okay. I'm going to give the answers just to move on. 1, 2, and 3. Now, This next one, you'll definitely see this on a test also. It's the circumference. Matter of fact, I was teaching this with someone this morning. Circumference, it's basically the perimeter of a circle. It's the distance around, there's that word again, around a circle. Now, I also gave you a formula. You do not have to memorize the formula. Why? Because they give it to you on the formula sheet. You just gotta remember, how in the heck do we use this thing? Well, first of all, this little strange symbol here, it's a number called pi. And it's 3.14159.265.357, goes on forever and ever and ever. Don't need to memorize that because it's on the calculator. On your calculator, if you remember where your ND button is at, it's like diagonal from ND. Your pi button is like diagonal from your ND button. That's your pi button. But before I go any further, there's a couple of definitions I need to review with you. One is called diameter. Diameter is all the way across. It's the longer. Radius is halfway. Think, what's the big deal about that? Because your formula says pi times diameter. If they give you diameter, you just plug in your answer, hit pi, and there's your answer. Or it could give you the radius. If they give you the radius, you have to double it, times it by 2, and then times it by pi. I'll give you an example. So, in this first example, I've given you the diameter of this one, of 2.5. In your calculator, you would hit pi times 2.5, and there's your answer. And I get 7.85. That's my answer. But for my second one, I only gave you the radius. Radius is 3.5. Don't you dare hit pi times 3.5, because this formula says pi times diameter. Diameter is not what was given. We were given the radius. So to find the radius, if 3.5 is the radius, to find the radius, we have to take the radius times it by 2 to get the diameter. Once we have the diameter, then we can times it by pi and get the answer. Now with this one, if you type pi times 7 into your calculator, you should just get 7 pi. On the test, they'll probably most likely want the decimal version. So to find the decimal, right above your enter button is the double arrow button. Once you hit double arrow, then you'll get the decimal. And you should get 21.99 as your decimal. But you only hit that double arrow if you need a decimal answer. Okay, so let's do some examples. Let's not, I don't want you to do them all just for time's sake. Let's just do 1, 2, 11, and 12. Don't do the bottom ones. And remember, if I gave you diameter, the line going all the way across, you just hit diameter times pi and hit double arrow if you need it. But if I gave you the radius, just half of it, you have to times it by 2, then times it by pi and hit equal. And double arrow if you need to get the decimal. So here are the answers. I know Courtney is kind of in and out because of work schedule. I totally understand that. And those of y'all who'll be listening to this later, just reach out to one of the instructors and we'll help you any way we can. So number 1 is 69.11. 2 is 43.98. Here's 3 and 4. 11 is 12.57. 12 is 69.11. 15.71 is number 13, and 14 is 25.13. You may, on your screen, on your calculator, you might get 69.17. I get 69.11. Same thing. So don't stress about it. You're in the ballpark. You're on the plate, if you will, for running through baseball. You're on the plate. You're good. That's all that matters. So that was circumference. And I'm going to tell you a little trivia. This is just a little trivia. But I was teaching this to someone this morning, and it reminded me of a story that I'd heard. This is a story about a guy who was a Greek from about 300 years before Jesus was born. And the story goes that he, using 2 sticks and the shadow cast by the 2 sticks, his name was Aristophanes, he calculated the circumference of the earth, and he was within 1,000 feet of being correct, which I thought that's pretty cool. And it wasn't until 1492 with Columbus that Columbus discovered the world was round. And here this Aristophanes guys in the year 200 or 300 BC, whatever it was, he'd already discovered that the earth was round. And he'd already found the circumference, the distance around the earth, and he was within 1,000 feet of being correct. I think that's pretty cool. That's a little trivia. That's the math geek in me, I guess. Okay. So the next one is about area. Area is the inside. Like if I'm going to if I want to use carpet, I want to carpet this floor. I want to calculate the area. It'd be like kind of silly if Christina went to the carpet place and she said, okay, I want this blue carpet. Beautiful, I like this blue carpet. And the salesman asked, how much do you need? I don't know, but I like blue. Again, he's asking, how much do you need? I don't know. What's your square footage? I don't know. That's like the blue. What he's asking you is the area. And this formula is an easy one to remember, but you don't even have to memorize it because they give it to you. The area formula for a rectangle or for a square, it's the same formula, is length times width. I want to repeat that, length times width. You just take the 2 numbers, multiply them, and there's your answer. So on this rectangle, you take 4 times 2.5, doesn't matter which order you put them in, you multiply them, and there's your answer, 10. So here we have 3 examples. And find the area, you just multiply them. 1, 2, and 3, just length times width. $13.6 is the one side, 12.2 is the other. 8.6, 14.7, 10.4, and the other side is 6.5. And to find the area, you just multiply them. So for number 1 is 165.92. And you're probably wondering that little 2 up in the air. Just disregard that. Just the math person made to put that. That's just the square footage. Don't have to put that little 2 up in the air. As long as you have 165.92, there's your answer. Number 2 is 126.42. And number 3 is 67.6. Those are the area of the rectangles. Now, here is how they'll ask it on the test. And a word problem, of course. So here we have Sherry again. Sherry is hiring a landscape architect to renovate her front yard. The rectangular yard is 30 feet long. If the area of the front yard is 600 feet square, what is the width of the yard? Here's 2 different ways you could do this. Number 1 says that the rectangular yard is 30 feet long and the area is 600 feet. So one way, and we're still using that same formula, since it's multiple choice, and it most likely will be, hint, 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 right here, it most likely will be multiple choice, we can just plug in what we know. Well, looking at the very first one, the rectangular yard is 30 feet long. So 30 goes on the outside. Width, we don't know, because what we're asking. Area, do we know the area? Yeah, it's 600. That's the only number that's not, we haven't used yet from the question. And it being multiple choice, we can just plug each one of those answers in, take 30 times 30, see what we get. It has to equal 600. If that doesn't work, try 20. 30 times 20, see if that's what we get. And that equals out 600. Now, some people like that idea, just plug in and test it out. I am totally fine with that. Doesn't even matter how you get the answer, as long as you get the answer. Some people realize, well, John, Christina, why can't we just divide it? 600 divided by 30, if you divide it. I am totally fine with that, because they realized that division is the opposite of times. Either way, we're totally fine with. As long as you get the answer, that's all that matters. So, and like I said, this is the way they'll show it on the test. Hint, 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 right here. I'm going to do one more little section and then we'll take a little pause for questions and review if we need to. Next one is about area. We'll still do an area. Remember, area is on the inside. But this time we have area of a circle. Area of a circle. And this is the formula. Again, you did not have to memorize because I give it to you. There's your pi again. This time we're going to use r, radius. But this time we have a 2 up in the air. The 2 up in the air is right beside your 7. I'm going to repeat that. The 2 up in the air is right beside your 7. And you still have to memorize because it's not on the formula sheet, which is my diameter and which is my radius, and what the definitions are for both of them. So let's look at number 2 for a second. Let's look at number 2. I gave you the radius, looks like it, of 3. So to find the area in your calculator, you would hit pi, hit your 3, and then your 2 up in the air is right beside your 7. Remember that, right beside your 7. Hit enter, and to get the decimal, it's the button up above the enter. 28.27 to number 2. If they gave you the radius. .27. But what if, look at number 3 here. What if they gave you diameter? Diameter is all the way across, but they still want the area. Remember, area calls for the radius first. So with this one, we have to find the radius first. Diameter was 8. And if you remember, the radius is only half that. So the radius would have to be 4. Do I have the radius now? Yeah, I do. Formula says pi times radius square. Pi times 4 square, and see what we get. Look at number 3 for a second. I put the answer as 50.27, but then I wrote in 50.26. It's the exact same thing, guys and ladies. Don't worry about that at all. It's the very same thing. Okay. Before I go into the next thing, are there any questions, comments, concerns? Guess not. The next part of the formula sheet is called surface area. Surface area is to cover a 3D shape. Like if I was going to cover, like how much material is it going to take to make a Campbell's soup can? Or how much plastic is it going to take to make a beach ball? On your formula sheet, you should see SA, SA, SA. That means surface area. There's like 6 formulas for surface area, but we will only be talking about 2 of them. The cylinder, which is a can, like a Campbell's soup can, and a sphere. You do not have to memorize how to say it, but a sphere means the exact same thing as a ball, a basketball, a softball, a beach ball. It means the exact same thing. So again, they give you the formulas, you just gotta know how do we use them. So with surface area, this is the formula for surface area. We still gotta remember radius and diameter. Radius is half of it. Diameter is all the way across. 2 pi, radius, height. 2 pi times radius times height, plus 2 pi radius squared. So in this question over here, this example, we have the height is 2.5 and the radius is 3. And we just plug that information into the calculator. Now, what I tell my students is that This is just a thought. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. But since this formula is kind of split in two sides, the 2 pi RH and then the 2 pi r squared, just a thought. Do each part separately. Find your 2 pi times radius times your height. See what that is. Write that down somewhere. And then the other side, 2 pi 3, which would be your radius, 2 pi radius squared. Enter that, find out what that is. Write that down on your piece of paper. And then you add them up together. So if you're doing it that way, the first part should be 47.12. Second part is 56.55. Close enough. And then I add the two numbers up. On my calculator, it's 103.668. I've got on the screen 103.67. It's the exact same thing. Exact same thing. And remember, if I've given you diameter and you have surface, and yet I still want the surface area, you have to half it to get the radius. So here are the 3 examples. Number 2 is just with the radius, but 1 and 3, I gave you the diameter, and you have to half it, and then plug it into the formulas. So number 1, there's your answer for number 1, 2, and then 3. And I apologize for going a little bit fast, but I'm gonna give you my email again, and your instructor can also help you also. Next one is for a sphere. Sphere is like a basketball, a softball. And we're still doing surface area. We're going to cover, we're going to make this basketball, whatever. We're going to make this bubble, if you will. And this is a formula that you do not have to memorize because they give it to you. You just got to know how do we use it. So if you look at this formula, you only need one number. You only need the radius. That's the only number you need. So in your calculator, you just hit 4 times pi times your radius squared. Remember your square buttons beside your 7. If you type that into your calculator, you'll get the answer. 4 pi 3.5 squared. And I get 153.938. I put 153.94, exact same thing. And just be aware that if I've given you diameter, you still have to half it because the formula asks for radius. So here are 3 questions regarding surface area of a sphere. Number 1, I've given you the radius, but 2 and 3, I've given you the diameter. So number one, just type it in 4 pi radius square. And I get 4536.46. And just like it was with the other areas, the 2 up in the air with the yard, just ignore that completely. As long as you get the answer, it's all that matters to us. Number 2 and 3, I gave you the diameter, and you have to half it to get the radius. So for number 1, the radius would be 6.5. And then number 3, the radius is 3.5. That's your radius. And then in your calculator, just hit 4 pi radius square into your calculator and get the answers. Okay. We got a few more things to go over, guys and ladies. The next one is volume. And in volume, we're going to fill it up. So we've made our sphere, we've made our cylinder, if you will. How much water, how much soup, how much sand is it going to take to fill it up? So we're going to fill it up. We're going to volume. And we're only going to be talking about 4 formulas from the formula sheet. Again, you do not have to memorize them because they give them to you. And on your formula sheet, it should say V equals the formula sheet, formulas. That's the ones you need to look at. The first one is the cylinder, which is the can again. The sphere is your basketball. A rectangular prism is just a big fancy word for a box. And then your cone, like an ice cream cone. Or if we was back in the one-room schools, look like a dunce cap. But it's a cone, or like a funnel for oil. So the first one is volume for a cylinder. And since we're still talking about circles here, you still gotta remember radius and diameter. I do have a mistake here. I apologize on this one. Instead of SA, I need to fix it to have V. So my apologies on that one. That's my first mistake in my life. No. So here's my volume formula for a cylinder. You take pi times radius square times your height. So in this, let's say this is a paint can. How much paint is it going to take to fill it up? You hit your pi button times your radius square, your 3 square, times your height, 2.5, into your calculator, and you get 70.69. So there are 3 examples in front of you, 1, 2, and 3. Remember, it's pi radius square times height. And thankfully, the 3 that I've given you, I did not give you the diameter. So you just type it in, pi times your radius square times your height. But if I had given you the diameter of the circle, you would have to half it and then plug it into the formulas. So for time's sake, number 1, 2, and 3. So just like it was with the square, with the areas, they had a 2 up in the air, and I told you just to ignore it. Same way for the volume. This is saying yards cube, or yards to the third power, inches to the third power, inches cube. Ignore that, to be honest with you all. As long as you get the answer, that's all that matters. So that was the volume of a cylinder. Next one is volume of a box. And this is the easiest. Maybe I'm going to present a gift to someone. How much, maybe I'm going to make a prank gift to someone. How much sand would I fill it up to for the box up? Or how much space do I have in the box? This is the formula that you do not have to memorize because they give it to you. It's length times width times height. They'll give you 3 numbers. You multiply them. Doesn't matter what order you multiply them in. Your length, width, and height, you multiply them, and there's your answer. So with this one, I've given you the length was 4, the width was 3.5, the height was 7. Does not matter which order you put them in. You multiply them to get 98 inches. So in front of you are 3 examples. And like I said, it does not matter which order you put them in. Just multiply your 3 numbers, and there you go. Number 1 is 0.064. Number 2 is 3174.4. And then number 3 is 0.216. That's the volume of the box. If I built like a sand box, how much sand is it going to take to fill the sand box up? Or if I have a toy box, how much space do I have to fill it up with toys or whatever the case may be? As long as it's a box, how much is it going to take to fill it up? So that was cylinder. We've done cylinder, we've done our box. This time we have a cone, like an ice cream cone, or a party hat, or a cone like we're going construction cone on the side of the road. This is the formula. This time we have a fraction. 1/3, 1/3 pi r squared h. So in the calculator, using your ND button still, ND 1/3, and then get out of that and just type in pi. We have a radius that tells me we might have diameter, and yet we still want the radius. Once we get the radius, we just type in the radius, we square it, like we've been doing, we hit your height, and get the answer. 13.85. So here are 3 examples. So remember, it's 1/3, 1/3 pi, radius square height. Okay, so here are the answers. Number 1, 2, and 3. So the first one you'd have 1/3 1/3 pi. Radius, the first one is 3 squared times your height, which is 9. And just type that into your calculator, and that will get your answer. Very similar for 2 and 3. One more formula, and this will be all the geometry that you pretty well need. This is the sphere or a basketball or a beach ball in front of you. This formula you do not need to memorize. Why? They give it to you. 4/3, so 4/3 pi r to the 3rd power. Now, this is one we've not dealt with. We've always used the 2nd power. So, here's what I want you to do for me in your calculator. In your calculator, go ahead and type in 4/3 like we've been doing with the ND button. Hit your pi button. Your radius is 3.2. I'm going to pause here. Don't forget, they may give you the diameter and you'd have to find the radius. Because the question says radius, they might give you diameter instead. You have to half diameter, remember that. Now, go back to what I was doing. So in your calculator, you should have 4/3 pi 3.2 to get to the 3rd power, to get your 3 up in the air. What you do, right below your pi button, you should see an arrow. The correct name is a caret. I don't like calling it caret, I call it an arrow. Why? Because it points up in the air. Once you hit your arrow button, your caret button, you should see something flashing in the air. That's where you hit your 3, hit your 4, 5, 6, or whatever you need to do. You hit your 3 button, in this case, go ahead and move over, hit enter, and you should get 137.26. I'm going to repeat that. So you hit your 4/3 in your ND button, hit your pi button, your radius is 3.2. To get to the 3rd power, right below your pi button is your arrow button. I call it the arrow. Hit your 3 now and hit enter. So here are 3. Look at these. I've given you 4 examples, but I got a problem here though. Well, you got a problem because I gave you the diameter on these 4 and you have to find the radius first and then plug them in. So I'm going to help you. I'll give you a little hint. So for the first one, the diameter is 20, but you want the radius. You only want half of it. So the radius is 10. Number 2, the diameter was 12, but you only want half of it because it's the radius. There's your 6. On number 3, I gave you diameter, but you only want the radius. So it's going to be 9 for the radius. Number 4, same way. You only want the radius. 8.5. Once you have the radius, then you can plug them into the formula. 4/3 pi radius to the 3rd power, and then hit equals. So these are the answers to 4. One last thing, and this is how they'll ask it on the test, or they could ask it to you on the test. We have this basketball. And a basketball's volume, I just made that answer up. I'm not sure if it's even true or not. So my apologies to the sports people out there. A basketball's volume is 2,900 inches cubed. Remember I said a little 3 up in the air with the inches cubed, we are a cube, just ignore the 3 up in the air. What is its approximate radius? That's all we know? That's it? That's all the question? That's all we need. That's all we need. We know the volume is 2,900. We do know that. Why do we know that? Because the formula says it. I'm sorry, because the question says that. What else do we know? Well, in our formula sheet, we have the volume formula. B equals 4/3 pi radius to the 3rd power. And I've even given you a hint how to do it. You plug in each choice until you get the right answer. So we know the volume formula, we know the volume is 2,900. And we know the rest of the formula is 4/3 pi. We don't know radius, I'm just going to put in r to the 3rd power. And since it's multiple choice, we can just plug in 7.9 in for r and see if we get close to 2,900. So in your calculator, you would hit 4/3 pi. Radius, let's just say is 7.9 to the 3rd power. And I get 2065. Well, we want to get close to 2,900. That's not it. It's close. That's not it. Let's try B. 4/3 pi. Radius possibly could be is 8.85. The 3rd power. In my calculator, it's 2,903. That's pretty darn close to 2,900. So most likely, you can go ahead and try the other ones if you want, but I'm gonna go ahead and pick B, because that's pretty darn close to 2,900. I get 2,903, and it's gonna be 2,900. You can try C and D, be on the safe side if you wanted to. I'm going to pick for that answer. Okay. I know I covered a lot, and I apologize, I did talk a bit fast, so my apologies there. But I'm going to give you my name again and my email. John.Rife. That way, if y'all wanted to email me or the instructors need to get hold of me, they sure can. At kctcs.edu. Okay. Any questions about anything so far? I'm sorry about that. I hit the wrong button. Hello? Hello?